Every NBA season, come February, the league gets a shakeup in the form of the trade deadline. Now, on occasion, we'll see stars on the move, but typically it's a little bit smaller moves in order to take a team to the next level, or at least that's the intention. But this year, however, we are just beginning 2026, and we are already getting some big time rumors a month away from the trade deadline. And those two guys with a lot of attention, a lot of eyes on them right now, are Anthony Davis and Trae Young. I want to analyze both these situations, what they might offer a team, and where it went wrong with their current squad. I want to start off here talking about Trae Young because just recently we've got some more news about this. It's felt like pretty recently that a Trae Young trade is bound to happen, and we've had discussions, we've had rumors about this for years. But this season, it kind of seems like it's all kind of imploding. Trae Young's production is down. His efficiency is as bad as it's ever been, if not worse. And the team seems to be doing better, at least record-wise, without their top star, their former franchise cornerstone. So the rumors have absolutely been heating up, and now it seems more likely than ever that Trae Young is going to be traded. It's coming out now that him and his agency are talking with Atlanta for discussions of just that, a transaction to get him out of there, new pastures for both sides. And now it's coming out with Trae Young is that the Wizards are his top preferred destination. And for number 11, I feel this trade is kind of a lateral move for him in terms of the talent around him. You look at a team like Atlanta, they have guys like Jalen Johnson, Onyeka Okongwu, Zachary Risachet, Nikhil Alexander-Walker has been having a great year. They have some young talent around him and some good defensive pieces to put around a guy who you don't necessarily trust all that much to defend on the perimeter. So that feels like, to me, a good situation for Trae Young. And then go to the Wizards, one of the worst teams in the league. They're also building something young. This is not to discredit what Washington is doing. Bilal Coulibaly, Alex Sarr, they have some pieces there. But overall, if this is Trae Young's preferred destination, I don't quite see what the benefit is for him to go there over in Washington. I guess ultimately we'll see how it all works out. But that doesn't feel like, from an individual perspective, for Trae Young himself, that does not feel like quite the right fit to me. But at the same time, I do think that they could develop these young guys and have a solid team around Trae Young. This gives them a chance to be the absolute star. If Atlanta maybe wants to move on with guys like Jalen Johnson, just have him take the helm. I could see it work out in that regard, but otherwise, I don't really see it for Trae Young. But he's always just such an interesting case as somebody who we know individually is so talented, one of the most talented guys in the league, such a great offensive hub. But at the end of the day, we just haven't necessarily seen that contribute to winning all that much. We'll see where he goes from here. Washington might be the move, but I don't quite know how I feel about that. One thing, though, with Trae Young is that next season he has a player option. So if he really wanted to, if he wanted to go out to Washington and maybe not spend the rest of his career there or even the next couple of years, but just get his numbers up, decline his player option, and get a big contract this offseason, that is something I could see happening. And maybe if he went to the Wizards, I might view that as the most likely scenario. That's what I would expect. And then we move on to Anthony Davis. And this is coming not long after the Luka Doncic trade. That, of course, happened last February. And when that blockbuster move happened, everybody was calling the Dallas Mavericks for making that decision to trade away a top 3 guy in the league who at his age is still hitting his prime just about for somebody that can still be a top 20 player in the league, is a great defensive anchor, a very talented offensive guy, but somebody that is consistently injured and past that 30 mark when it comes to his age. Everybody was calling the Mavericks for that, but at the end of the day, they justified it by saying, or at least attempted to justify it by saying, that they wanted a defensive-oriented team, that they believe defense wins championships. And with that, Anthony Davis was going to be the guy to lead them into the future. But now, fast forward, not even a year later, it seems like that vision has all but collapsed. Of course, general manager Nico Harrison is no longer there. And overall for the Dallas Mavericks, it feels like at the end of the day, you were never going to get equal value for somebody like Luka Doncic. But now it feels like they're not even getting half of what they should have got in return, especially if they move on from AD. The vision has not worked out. They lucked out in getting Cooper Flag. He's going to be a franchise guy for them for years to come. But Anthony Davis now might just be on the move. And this was the man who was supposed to be your centerpiece. And I also feel like having GM Nico Harrison be fired now, I do think that kind of plays a part in the Mavericks' decision to move on from somebody like AD. In the fact that Nico Harrison, he made a big swing with that trade to acquire AD. It's a swing he should not have taken, but as long as he was the GM over in Dallas, he was going to stick by AD because that was the biggest remaining piece of value that you had from trading away your franchise cornerstone. But now with Harrison gone, there's no attachment necessarily to somebody like AD anymore. So now you are more susceptible to a trade and just cutting your losses. And that's what I think the case is here. As for where AD could go, I think as long as he is available, not struggling with too many injuries, he could always impact a team. He could always find a way to provide value. And in my mind, the best fit for Anthony Davis right now would maybe be the Toronto Raptors. And I know so many NBA fans, we kind of just overlook the Raptors over in Canada. Simply put, they are not a market that we think about all that often. But the Toronto Raptors are a really, really good team right now. And coming into the year with somebody like Brandon Ingram, they had high expectations, but kind of like Celtics, they started the year slow. Recently, however, they've been picking up. They've been a really good team. And what they really need is a big man. And Anthony Davis, as long as he's on the court, could really provide that. And that could make for a really good defense. Guys like him and Scotty Barnes on that squad. That also helps having somebody like Brandon Ingram, in which he can still be that go-to scorer, and he's not much of a defensive threat. So having guys like Barnes and AD to make up for that with their versatility and overall ability, I think that would be a really good fit for somebody like Anthony Davis. And in having guys like Ingram on the offense, that also means that you're okay if AD has to miss some games here and there because you have guys who can take on that scoring load and have been taking on that scoring load this whole year. So Toronto, we might overlook them at times. They certainly don't get a lot of media attention, but it does make a lot of sense for Anthony Davis to go there. And I think that would be a really good fit. So overall, those are your two superstars who may very well be on the move. And if that is the case, this could be a massive NBA trade deadline. As for where I think they'll go, or maybe where they should go, for Anthony Davis, once again, I would say the Raptors. And for Trae Young, he apparently wants to go to the Wizards. And we'll see how that turns out long term. But that would definitely be an interesting move. And he would certainly have the green light over there. Look out for Trae Young. Look out for Anthony Davis on the move this trade deadline.